Yes, sir. Now you can.
Yes, okay. So, thank you. We welcome at the beginning all the participants of the annual foundation school, first one, AFS1, and we welcome Professor J.K. Verma, who is the head of National Center for Mathematics, and he is handling all these annual foundation schools, advanced instructional schools, and other programs of NCM supported by a committee. So we are happy that he is here for this inauguration of this annual foundation school at the SP Pune University. And myself and Professor Vinayak Joshi, who is the head of the Department of Mathematics, and also Dr. Ganesh Kadu, we are handling this annual foundation school. And now for this annual foundation school, we see that there are about 60 participants who have been selected. And today we are having first lecture by Professor Dilip Patil from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And there will be two lectures which are preliminary lectures. They are on analysis, that is complex analysis, and topology. They will be handled by associate teachers. And from tomorrow, we shall have two lectures and one problem session. That is the usual situation. We have already sent the timetable to all the participants, and the WhatsApp group is there for all the participants. In this WhatsApp group, we shall put all this information. As Professor Dilip Patil has just now said, he will also give the notes of his lectures, and they will also be put up there on the WhatsApp group. So we are very happy that we are starting this annual foundation school. Professor Verma, you want to say anything? You are here, so would you like to give any comments?
So thank you, Professor Katre and Professor Joshi and Ganesh Kadu for coming forward to organize this foundation school, the first foundation school. This is the first introduction to all the participants to programs of NCM. And I want to assure all the participants that NCM will stay with you for a long time. The purpose of NCM is to help you in acquiring good knowledge by bringing in active and very good mathematicians in the country. The center is almost 10 years old. It has organized such programs many times, and these programs are diverse in nature but specific to audience. So please read the website of NCM. You have registered in that, and we don't do much publicity of our programs, but all the details appear on the website. So check it out from time to time and register the program that you like, and reading the syllabus, whether it is useful to you or not. I want to thank the mathematics department of Pune University to come forward to organize this program at a short notice, and I hope you will all enjoy the learning which will happen for next 6 weeks, and you will continue to learn this material further in other foundation schools number 2 and number 3.
Yeah, so, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you, Professor J.K. Verma. Now I request Professor Vinayak Joshi, who is the head of the department, to say a few words. Then we will start the lecture by Professor Dilip Patil.
Yes, first I welcome all the participants, speakers and associate teachers, and the head of the NCM, Professor J.K. Verma. On behalf of Department of Mathematics, certainly we will conduct this AFS in forthcoming time also. And I especially thank all the teachers and associate members of the AFS 1. Thank you, Verma sir, for giving us opportunity to hold this AFS 1. Particularly when Katre sir is there, we are little, we don't have any worry as such, because he is a backbone of all the team members, myself and Kadu sir. He always backing us. Thank you, Katre sir, also. With this, over to Katre sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you will see from tomorrow the lectures by Professor Nitin Nutsure from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, and he will talk on topology, and also Professor Hemant Bhate, who is Emeritus Professor at SP Pune University. So now with this short introduction, we start the lecture by Professor Dilip Patil, and we request Professor Patil to start his lectures on group theory. Thank you very much. Professor
All right.
Dilip.
So, shall I start?
Yes, please start. Yes.
And now already 3:45. So when can I stop?
Yeah, 1 hour you can take. Yeah, 1 hour you can take. Then there is next lecture. 5 minutes gap we will give, and one introductory
Okay,
lecture.
fine.
Yes.
Fine. So I will. Well, I am going to give all the lectures on what the topic is linear algebra and group theory. But I am going to start with group theory, and all right. So my lectures will depend on Martin's book, on algebra, that is the second edition. And basically it will cover material from chapter 7, 8, 9 and 10. But I will not go in the same order as in the book. And I will also demand some prerequisites that all of you know. And that is, so the prerequisite will be so the basic courses on group theory and linear algebra. All right, so I will assume that you are familiar with groups, subgroups, homomorphisms, normal subgroups, etc., etc. Similarly, I will assume that you are familiar with linear algebra. That means vector spaces, linear maps, determinants, and so on. Sometimes I will recall few of them without proofs. If anybody doesn't have background, they can also raise some of these queries in the tutorial sessions. All right, so I'm going to start with group actions. As you might have heard, this is very important topic, and it is you can find applications almost in every branch of mathematics, and also it has a lot of applications to the engineers and so on and so on. So first I will define. So G always denotes a group, and I will write multiplicatively. That means binary operation in G is written multiplicatively. And E will always denote or 1. Most often I will write 1 equal to E. This is the identity in G. Sometimes there is a confusion, I will write more. And as far as these lectures go concerned, I will write minimal on the board and I will talk more. Anyway, there will be notes, so there won't be any problem with the understanding. And also I will try to give examples from linear algebra. So what are the groups that we are going to deal more often, that I want to recall some of them first to start with. So as you see, groups originated, really the group is a very old concept, and it really originated from theory of equations. With Lagrange, Cauchy, and then Galois and others. They have originated the groups, concept of group. They were not saying it, but they were working in the groups. And the prominent group, what they were using was this symmetric group on n symbols. So I denoted Sn. These are all bijective maps from the set 1 to n to 1 to n. This is the set of all bijective maps from the set 1 to n to 1 to n. And I will denote the elements of this group Sn as sigma, tau, etc. This is also called permutation group. On 1 to n. That means elements of this group permute this set 1 to n. Also, I have a habit of writing these Gothic letters that I got it actually originally when I was in my master's in Pune University. The prescribed books for us was Jacobson and Zariski-Samui, and both these books are heavily using this. And later on also I continued it because I read a lot of German books. All right, so this is the group which will come very often, and more generally, actually, when X is infinite, X is any set, then one denotes this Sx. This is a permutation group on X. On X. So they are all bijective maps from X to X. All right, we already know that the order of this group, this is a group under composition. The order of this group, that is cardinality of this group, is n factorial. This you learn very earlier in your college days and so on. All right, so this is one group, and this is a model example actually for our group actions or group operation. So note that from Sn cross 1 to n to 1 to n, there is a natural map. So if you have sigma and an element I here, where do you map it? Just evaluate it. So such a thing is called an operation. So this means Sn operates on the set 1 to n. And nothing special about 1 to n. Sx will operate on X, same. Only thing is this is a finite group, but this X, when X is not finite, this may not be a finite group. All right. So I will generalize this to arbitrary group. So now this is a definition. G is a group. As I already said, we are writing it multiplicatively, and X is a set. And then an operation of G on X is a map from G cross X to X. And this, the image of this pair G comma X is written as it is written as Gx. So this is the definition. This is the definition of the image of the pair G comma X under this map. If one wants, one can write this, but we are not going to do that. I already assume all of you are matured enough to understand what I'm saying. So such a map is called an operation, if it should satisfy some properties. So the map satisfying two properties. One, if I take identity in G, and times any element X, that is the image of E comma X under this operation map. This should be X for every X. This is very reasonable to ask for. And two, the group operation in the G, that binary operation of G, and this operation should be compatible with each other. That means if I have two elements in G and G prime in G, whether I multiply in a group, that means I apply the operation of the group, and then this operation, that is same thing as first I operate G on X, and then operate, this is a new element in X, on this element I operate G prime. This result should be true, same for all G prime in G and X in X, for all X in X. So if it satisfies these two properties, then we say that G operates on X. And a typical example is this. Now here you don't have to check because it's so obvious that if sigma is identity map, then sigma identity map evaluated at I is I itself. So this one is clearly satisfied. Similarly, the operation in this group Sn is a composition of maps. Therefore, this also satisfies clearly. So this is a typical example of an operation of group. But in this, there is very little about groups. It's not very prominent. So I want to translate this definition in terms of which will say more about groups. So which will give us more opportunity to use results from a basic group theory. So that I will do it. But before I do it, I want to give one more example. And this example, I will take it now from linear algebra. So I will take this opportunity. During this opportunity, I will introduce whatever basic notation I will use throughout these lectures from linear algebra. So let V be a vector space over a field K. And I'm not assuming anything about the field. It could be infinite field, it could be finite field, it could be any field. And finite field is also very interesting because nowadays we have lots of applications of finite fields to the digital world and information technology and so on. All right, now everybody know what is a linear map. So I will denote, for example, I will denote endomorphisms of V and V and Vk. These are all endomorphisms. They are all F from V to V, and F is K linear. It's a linear map from V to V. They are called endomorphisms, and the short form is end. If in general, if I had two vector spaces V and W, I will denote home K VW. This means all homomorphisms from V to W, all K linear maps from V to W. F from V to W, F K linear. So that was the general notation. And you know, this end. Now this one has a more structure. This one has, you can add two linear maps by adding their images. Evaluate and add the images. So that makes sense. And there is also composition. So with these two operations, this becomes a ring. I will assume also very basic, very basic things about rings. And this ring is not commutative in general. Not commutative if dimension of V is at least 2. That you can see very easily. And then it is a vector space also. So this one is also vector space, K vector space. And this ring structure and this vector space structure are compatible with each other. That simply one says that is a K algebra. So if anybody has a doubt, please they can ask questions now, or they can ask in the tutorial. And I would like my lectures to be I don't like monologue, so I want more like a discussion. So anybody can stop me anytime. All right, so it is a K algebra. So it's a ring, it's a non-commutative ring. But the scalars, they commute with the endomorphisms. All right, and they are the only one who commutes with every endomorphism. All right, so there is a unit, the unit group makes sense. So you take end KV, and then I will write cross. So what is the general notation? If you have a ring R, and when I write R cross, that means units in the ring. Units in the ring R. That means units with respect to multiplication, of course. Addition, everybody is a invertible element. So units means invertible elements with respect to the multiplication. And that is, if R were a commutative, then this will be a group, abelian group. Otherwise, it is a group. In any case, it is a group. Because I have taken invertible elements. All right, this I am going to denote by GLKV. And this is a group. This group is called general linear group. Of V. So far, I have never talked about a basis. And that is what it is very useful when linear algebra, I will only go to a basis or choose a basis when I need it. Or I will choose at the appropriate place so the calculation becomes less messier. All right, so this group, so whereas if you have a finite dimensional case, if V is a finite dimensional. So before I go on to that, I just want to mention now this GLKV. Sometimes I will drop this K also in the notation because K is fixed anyway when we talk about vector spaces. Unless K is also arranged. So GLV operates on V. Canonically. So this operation is also very canonical. This operation of the symmetric group, or this group is also called symmetric permutation group. This operation is also very canonical. Just it's a evaluation map. So here also is very canonical. So what is the operation? So I should have a map from GLV cross V to V. What can be? Sigma comma V evaluated. So this is very canonical. And these obviously satisfy those 1 and 2. If sigma were identity, this is just sigma of V is V, and because the operation in this group is composition, therefore it satisfies 1 and 2. All right, now if suppose the dimension of V is finite, suppose the dimension is n and finite, then what do? We choose a basis V1 to Vn, basis of V, and then we identify every endomorphism with its matrix of F with respect to this basis V and V. So V underline is this basis. And it became a now matrix. This is a matrix, square matrix, n cross n matrix or K. And the composition here will correspond to the matrix multiplication. In fact, that motivates why matrix multiplication was defined the way it is defined. It corresponds to the composition. And then many people just work with matrices. But it is useful many times to choose an appropriate basis so that the matrix is better looking. All right, so that was what then more and more. So these two groups are very important. So here the corresponding GLKV that will correspond here to GLNK. So they are the same. But this one which linear map, which endomorphism belong to this is tough. So then one has a determinant. So one has defined a determinant of a matrix. Determinant of a matrix is defined. And this one, when the matrix is invertible, if and only if determinant is non-zero. But this determinant doesn't change. The determinant doesn't change when it doesn't depend on the basis. So such thing that we assume. Sorry?
Varsha Rai had raised hand.
What is the question?
Varsha Rai, there was a raised hand. Is there that person?
Who is Varsha? Can you please talk?
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is, sir, K is a field here, no?
Sorry?
Sir, K, you write a K, na? Over the field K.
Yes.
Sir, K is any field, na, sir?
K is any field.
Okay. Okay, sir.
I mentioned it, no? K is any field. Not
Yes, sir, but
necessarily.
sir, on the page 2, you write only over a field. And you take K as a field.
When you say a field, that means you can take any field.
Yeah,
Okay,
but the
sir.
K is also written there. Over a field K.
K is also written here. I didn't have a place here,
Next
so I
line.
went to the next line.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sorry, my mistake, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir.
It is always better to ask questions. So these two groups are prominent for us in the study. And when K is finite field, then we know this GL, KV is a finite group. And you can find out what is the order of this group. That is a good exercise for today evening. All right. So these are the two main groups and some more groups which will come out of this. So I mainly recall this example because I want to use this notation henceforth in linear algebra, as well as I will try to give examples from mixed examples. All right. So the first thing now is I want to translate this definition so that, as I said, so that more group theory will enter and we will have more opportunity to use more group theory. So each operation map. So I'm just going to translate what is the meaning of that in terms of the group. So if you have an operation of G on the set X, this is the operation map. So I will keep calling it operation. That is why I use the word operation. And the advantage is now I may not have exactly group structure on G. Lesser than that also will work because you just are asking the map from the product to the X. So G can just be monoid and then appropriately those 1 and 2 get modified. G could just be a set also. Then there is no condition because set doesn't have a structure. All right, so this is the operation map. On the other hand, I have, because G is a group, I can think about group homomorphism from G to S of X. And then that I will call it theta. And theta is the group homomorphism. Now what I am saying is that the set of operations and set of group homomorphisms, they are in one-to-one correspondence, which satisfy 1 and 2. 1 and 2 with 1 and 2. That means those above conditions 1 and 2. So 1 will correspond to the 1 will correspond to the fact that theta of identity is the identity map on X. That is what it will correspond to. And 2 will correspond to that theta respects theta of G prime equal to theta G composed theta G prime. And how do you define theta using this? Simple. Take any G and where do you want to map it? I want to define theta G. Theta G, this should be a map from X to X. This is just a map X going to Gx. So assuming this, I define theta, and now these conditions you just translate, they are equivalent to these two. So that is the meaning that it is a group homomorphism. Conversely, if I have given theta, then you recover this by sending G comma X going to theta G evaluated at X. Make sense? Makes sense. And only thing which I want you to check that this theta G is indeed a bijective map. That is where you will need the fact that it is a group. G is a group is needed to check that this map is a bijective map. And I would like you to check this. So I will just write here check that this is bijective. This is what I am asking to check. So it is indeed an element in SX. All right. So whenever I talk about group action, I will mention the action homomorphism, and this theta is called an action homomorphism. Action homomorphism. If I want to insist on this way, then I will say G operates on X. All right. Now we should see many examples and many things which one feels difficult to prove in basic group theory. We will prove most of the things by group actions. In fact, all the results in group theory, in finite group theory, I want to prove by using group actions. All of them. All right. So let me see some examples now. Or before I see more examples, also I want to note, or let us see examples first. So examples. So in these examples, G will always denote a group and X will always denote a set. And G may not be finite group, but written multiplicatively, it may not be abelian also. It may be, it may not be. Normal convention in many good books is whenever your group is abelian, then one writes it additively. And whenever we don't know whether the group is abelian or not, then one writes it multiplicatively. That is the standard convention one follows very easily. All right, and then on the same set, G may act in many different ways. So G may act on the same set in a different ways. All right, so some examples first, and then we will build up more vocabulary by using group. Okay, so first is this is called left regular action of G on G. So that means I am taking X equal to G. So G I am taking this X is I am taking G in this example. X which is G. Or this is also called Cayley operation. Cayley operation. Basically, the group structure, that is binary operation of a group, that will give you the action operation map. So what is the operation map? So G cross G to G, we want a map. Think of this as X. This is X. So G, comma X going to GX. This is now the binary operation in G. So the group operation gives, so and this is obviously you have to check 1 and 2. But that is obviously, that is the group, the first one will correspond to the fact that E or 1 is the identity element in G, and 1 times any X is also X for any X in G, and the second property because it is the binary operation in G is associated. So therefore this is an operation, and therefore what corresponding to this, what will be theta? That is a map from G to S of G. That is G going to theta G.
So
No,
this will be identity map, right?
Which map? Which map will be identity map?
So this homomorphism will be identity homomorphism corresponding to this action.
How? See, when you say identity homomorphism, that means you need the same set, no?
Yes, sir.
When do you say identity map? You need same set to same set. But here the sets are different. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So will it be identity permutation?
So your question doesn't make sense. Even when you say permutation from the same set to same set, no?
Yes, sir.
So I don't know, your question is not formulated well, but I will tell more which will maybe will satisfy you better. So what is this map? G going to theta G, and theta G is what? G to G. This map is just a bijective map. It is not a homomorphism. This map is just X going to Gx. Note that this map is a bijective map, but need not be homomorphism. In fact, not a homomorphism, not group homomorphism. Why? Because where is identity go? Identity is going to G. And identity should go to identity under group homomorphism, no? All right, but what is true is this theta map is a group homomorphism. Remember the difference between theta map and theta G map. So theta suffix G is the image of the G under this natural map. This is the map. Now, what one proves it, we already noted this theta is a group homomorphism. So what do we need to prove for this? That means theta of G prime should be equal to theta G compose theta G prime. And you check this equality. This is very easy to check. Take any element X and evaluate both sides. When you take any element and evaluate, what do you get? This element will be nothing but G prime times X. And everything is a binary operation in G only. We have nothing else. And this one is first theta G prime at X, that is G prime at X. And then theta G evaluated here, that is G times this. And this is same. This is the associativity in G. So therefore they are equal. So therefore this is a group homomorphism. And what is more important is this group homomorphism is injective. That means different G's, it's 1-1 map. Different G's go to different thetas. And that is also, I will leave it for you to check. This is very easy. That means you have embedded your group G in a permutation group. That was Kelly. So in particular, when G was finite, S of G is also finite. Therefore, you have this shows that your group is embedded in a permutation group. And therefore, it is important to study permutation group. If you know all about permutation group, then you will know finite group theory is very easy. But knowing all is tough job. Knowing all means not only you know the elements, you know everything, what subgroups are there, and so on and so on and so on. So theory of group theory, therefore, finite group theory at least reduces to the studying permutation group more intimately. All right. So that was the first example. Next one, now one may say that why did I prefer left multiplication here? Of course, one can do right also. But I will not do that. Is a corresponding thing, so that is a trivial change. So I will not get into that because that way we will save some time. So second example is combining right and left. So what am I doing? Second example, conjugation. Conjugation operation. So what is it? Again, G operates on G by conjugation. What does that mean? So X is also G. So whenever you have trouble, you should write that X just to not to make any mistake. So I need a map G cross G to G. This is my X and this is my X. Or maybe I should write it up. This is my X. Just to remember. So take any G, take any X, and I need to send it to some element of G again. So where do I want to send? I will send it to this element G, X, G inverse. And this operation map, I want to call it kappa. And this map, so therefore what is the, first you check that it satisfies 1 and 2. If G is identity in the group, then this is just X. So therefore it satisfies first property. Second property is if I change G here to the product G prime, then what happens here? That is again easy to check. So I have to check, I have to leave some checking for you. So satisfies 1 and 2 of the definition. Therefore, this is an operation of this, and it operates like this is called a conjugate of X in G. Therefore, it is the word conjugation is used. And what is the corresponding theta map? Corresponding theta map should be from where to where? It should be from G to S of X. And what is that map? Any G going to kappa G. And kappa G is, what is the kappa G map? It is from X to X. And it should be bijective. That map is just X going to G, X, G inverse. So I will write it a little bit. There is no place here, so I will write it the side. So this kappa G map at X defined as Gx G inverse. So that is also called inner conjugation. This is called, in groups, it is called inner conjugation. That is why it is called conjugation. And again, I am not checking that it is bijective, and it is must. One should check whatever all the. Sometimes I say it orally, I will not write the proof. All right. So that was the second example. All right. Now, before I go on to continue, okay. So no, I want one more example. One more example. This will be from linear algebra. So we have a group G, that is GLV. No, I will not keep again writing V the vector space over K. That's understood when I wrote GLV. And I can promise you I will be very, very consistent in my notation throughout my course. When there is a change, I will say it loudly. So this group operates, or I want to take a conjugation operation. So this operates on end V. This is my X now. What is the operation? That means I need a map from GLV cross end V to end V. So I have a matrix G, non-singular matrix G, and I have, why do I say matrix? I don't want to say matrix. G is an endomorphism, is an automorphism of G, automorphism of V, comma F, which is an endomorphism of V. So endomorphisms are also called, sometimes they are called linear operators on V. So this, where does it go? I will map it to G, F, G inverse. Makes sense? When I say times means it's a composition, that is understood, because operation in GLV is a composition. This is a conjugation. If you want to write in matrix terms, right, G, L, N, K cross, this is for the finite group, finite dimensional vector space, MNK to MNK. This map is any non-singular matrix G, any matrix A that is mapped to G, A, G inverse. This is a similar matrix. So this is the operation of similarity. And of course, we have to check that 1 and 2 is satisfied. Of definition, check. But that is more or less clear. If G is identity map, identity element in this group is identity map on V. G is identity, G inverse is also identity, and composed on the other side is F only. So it is the first property. Second property, again, what you have checked here, the same checking. So this operates. So if you see the linear algebra course, usually the whole linear algebra course is devoted to understand this operation. I will come back to this again and again. All right. Now, enough of example. Now I have to build up some more vocabulary. I need it. So far, anybody has any question? Please ask me. Anybody has a question?
Sir, I have a symbol problem, sir. In this notation, you use
notation?
general linear group over K.
Which notation?
Sir, this mapping, general linear group over K, the last line.
This one, GLNK cross MNK.
Yes, sir. The mapping goes on the function G and G inverse.
Oh, that earlier one. Yes. What is the problem with that?
Sir, this notation, I am not familiar with this notation.
Which notation?
Sir, you write na matrix notation.
Yeah, this notation.
Sir, this is a small g.
Your voice
the last
is
line.
Last line is G is a matrix in GLNK, A is a matrix in MNK. Then I consider this new matrix G times A times G inverse.
G times? Sir,
G inverse. G inverse.
Okay, sir. Okay. So this is only a notation of a matrix, no, sir?
Of course. It's like a language. Okay. Like in Marathi, you will say A, and in English, you will say A. No?
Yes, sir. Sir, I don't know Marathi.
So what does notation means? In the notation, we choose appropriate letters, right?
Yes.
And as you can see, the letters we will run short of letters soon. So therefore, we have to adopt letters from different alphabets. Like you use Greek, you know, like alpha, beta, gamma. You use that. Lambda, mu, nu. You use that. You use A, B, C also. You use capital A, capital B, capital C also.
Okay.
No?
Okay.
So it is just that. It is. I was confused because
Okay.
you said notation and what you meant was the alphabet.
Okay, sir.
All right. All right.
Oh,
So
yes,
that
sir.
is.
Thank you.
But did you? Does it hinder your understanding what I say?
What, sir?
Does it? Is this notation becomes difficult for you to understand?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. All right. So these are now I want to collect more vocabulary. Now henceforth I will jump on saying either G operates on X. So G is a group always, and X is a set. And I will either say G operates on X or I will say G acts on X. These are same. I only have to change one, right? Yes. Yes. Atre. Anything? If anybody wants to say something, please say. All right. So, for example, when I say that G operates trivially, G operates trivially on X. That means the map, operation map, is G comma X goes to X for every X. This is a trivial action. The G is not playing any role sort of. And these obviously satisfy both the condition 1 and 2. So it operates, this means operates trivially. What will be the corresponding theta then? Sx to Sx. What will be the theta map? Where will any G go? G, all G will go to identity map. Identity map on X. So it's a trivial homomorphism. That is why it is called a trivial operation. This is a trivial homomorphism. All right. So now now let us say G operates on X. Then to understand this operation or action, we need following two important concepts. So first of all, it defines an equivalence relation. Who defines an equivalence relation? The operation of G on X defines the relation, the equivalence relation. Which equivalence relation? This. How is it defined? Suppose X and Y are elements in X. Then we say that X is related to Y. And somewhere we have to keep that G somewhere. So I will write G here. This is if and only if. This is a definition. Y is equal to G times X for some G. That is, and one has to check now it is an equivalence relation. That means you have to check it is reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. That I am not going to check. So I just here check. And what does an equivalence relation do on any set? It will break up set into pieces, disjoint pieces. It gives a partition of the set X. And what are the pieces? What are the equivalence classes? So the equivalence class of equivalence class of X is equal to all those Gx. What is varying? G is varying. So they are all G multiples of X, I will say. So this set obviously I will denote by G times X. Again, this is just a notation, very suggestive notation, because elements are all G multiples of the small x, where G is varying. So they are here. So because an equivalence relation, either Gx and Gx prime, they will be disjoint or be equal. Because it's an equivalence relation. Hello? Somebody's mic is on. Hello, can I go on? So these are the equivalence classes. The second, and now we can write down this definition of equivalence class in terms of the operation map also. All right, so you translate that into the action homomorphism. That is only will be the translation of this is a language translation. So second concept which we will need for every x. So this is called before I go on to second, this equivalence class. This is also called orbit of x under the operation of G. Orbit. Okay, and orbit is a subset. This orbit of x is like this, which is a subset of x. Okay, the second one, for every x in x, I look at all those elements of G in G, which keep this x fixed, so that is Gx is x. And this is a subset of G. And the first thing to note is this subset is actually a subgroup. Subgroup of G. So I should check it is a subgroup of G. And once I check, I will start denoting by G and suffix x. So note now, those whose handwritings are bad, they will write the Gx. This is G and X in the same line. This is in the same line. And this is in the down line. So this has to be obeyed. If you don't obey, you can get confused with your own writing. All right. So that is this subgroup is called isotropy. Group at X, or it is also called stabilizer. Of X. Now, why is it called stabilizer? This isotropy word comes from physics. And this stabilizer comes because what happens? If I take any G in this subgroup, that doesn't move X. So it stabilizes X. Therefore, it is called a stabilizer of X. All right. Now comes the very famous theorem. What is the relation between orbit and stabilizer? And therefore it is called, this theorem is called orbit stabilizer theorem. Which Lagrange proved it first. Of course, he didn't use this language, but he proved it. He essentially proved this. So what does it say? Orbit stabilizer theorem says that if X is any G group, X is a set, X set, and G operates on X. Instead of writing all this, I am going to simply write X is a G set. That means G is a group, X is a set, and G operates on X, or G acts on X. That is just simply abbreviated that X is a G set. Then what is the theorem says? Theorem says that index of the stabilizer at X equal to cardinality of the orbit.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, could you explain what is when is X a G set?
Meaning of G set is this earlier sentence. X is a set, G is a group, and G is operating on X.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
And the operation is also fixed.
Okay,
Alright.
so like, do we have a specific operation, or it is for any
No, that
operation?
is a given operation. That is a given fixed operation.
Okay.
Now, as you saw on the group, there are many operations.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
So that is just I am abbreviating it because every time otherwise you have to write G be a group, X is a set, G operates on X. So X is a G set.
Okay, so like we do need to specify the specific operation that we're talking about, right?
When we need an example, we have to specify it. In general, any fixed operation.
Okay, sir. Okay.
See, it is like this. Whenever you said V is a vector space, do you specify a vector space structure or not?
No, sir.
No. So it should work for any operation.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, sir.
So when you say somebody is a module or somebody is a group, then your binary operation of the group is fixed. But it is whatever theorems you proved for any group, they are valid for all binary operations, so that it becomes a group. No.
Yes, sir.
So it's like that.
Okay.
All right. Now, what is the theorem? Theorem says index of the stabilizer at X. Index is a subgroup. So index and the cardinality of the orbit. Orbit is here, the stabilizer. Here you are denoting G suffix X, and orbit you are denoting G times X. And these two index means G, Gx. This is the index, and cardinality means this symbol. And these are.
Hello, sir.
Several questions here. Index is by definition, cardinality is G by Gx. I am not saying that the G by Gx is a group. These are the cosets. This one is the set of it's the left cosets. The G of Gx in G. That is, this set is what our denoting, that is G times G. The left cosets. Understood? And the cardinality of this set, we are denoting group theory by this G colon Gx.
Hello.
This is what we want to prove.
Hello.
What we want to prove. But I never said G is finite, X is finite, and so on. So what do you mean by cardinality are equal? That means there is a bijective map from one to the other. Okay, Shubham is also raising the hand. Shubham, do you have a question? Hello?
Hello.
Yes?
Sir, I have the same question which you already said. G need not be finite.
Yes.
Yes.
They may not be finite. But what is the meaning of this equality then? So the meaning of this equality should be there exists a bijective map. From G by Gx G times bijective. And note that I am not saying that Gx is a normal subgroup there and this is not a quotient group. These are just the set of left quotients. And I want to now produce a bijective map. Once I produce a bijective map, then this will be proved. All right, so let us produce a bijective map. So I want to define a map from coset to this. So very simple. Take any coset, it will look like this. And where can I go? I take the G times this. And now I have to check it is well defined. So we need to check because these left cosets are the equivalence classes, no? So I have to check first of all this is well defined. What does well defined means? This could be equal to some x. If it is, then I have to do that Gx is also same thing. I have to put it only well defined. Once it is well defined, then we will check whether it is bijective or not. So what does this equality means? This equality means whenever the two left cosets equal, H prime H inverse G belong to Gx. That is the meaning of these two cosets are equal. But what is the meaning that they belong to the stabilizer? So that means this is if and only. So H inverse times G times X equal to X. But this is same because of our group action property. This is H inverse times Gx. And then now I multiply by X, I multiply by H on this side. So this will be H inverse times Gx equal to H inverse times X. And now this is identity, so this is Gx. I multiplied by, yeah. That's, no, nothing. Right. So that simply means this is fixed. So that simply means that H inverse G belongs to the. So this simply means belongs to stabilizer. So what do I want to prove? I want to prove Hx is Gx. So multiply by H. That was correct. So multiply by H, then you will get. So this will imply, or this is equivalent to saying I am multiplying by H. So that is Gx equal to H. So therefore, what we have checked, it is well defined. And now we want to check it is bijective. So can I leave it for you to check it is bijective or should I check it? Now the choice is yours.
Time is up actually, so maybe you can leave it.
All right, so I would write simply here check. Check the bijective. It is very simple again. And then we will continue next time because time is up. It was the first lecture, so I didn't know the gauging of the time and my material. But if you find it slow, you write to me. If you find it fast, you write to me. We will adjust accordingly. All right. So I will immediately send this PDF file to Pawan, and also I will send it to Katre.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I'm making it. I'm here only. I will make this file. So I will put the extra pages.
Professor Patil, for your very nice talk. And now we'll have a break of 5 minutes, and then we will start with the next discussion session. It is a tutorial actually, and so we'll have 5-minute break for that. And then there will be tutorial on complex analysis. And there will be, I expect, 2 associate teachers will be taking it, and they are already here. I will just check.
What is the email address of Pawan?
Already you have got a mail from him. Already
Okay.
today you have got a mail from him. So
Okay.
you can reply to that.
All right.
So we expect